From 9 on Your Side Sports, Cincinnati's longest-running sports talk show on television. This is Sports of All Sorts with Reggie Wilson.
What up? Welcome into Sports of All Sorts. I'm your new humble host, Reggie Wilson, and every week we want to talk about the sports stories that matter to you. It's NFL Sunday, and I know we want to have a conversation about the Bengals, so let's get into it. Bengals hosting the 49ers, who Zach Taylor knows well from his days in the NFC West. Didn't seem like it, though. First San Fran drive of the game, Jimmy Garoppolo finds a wide-open Marquise Goodwin. He strolls in for 6. That was a busted coverage somewhere. It's 7-0. Bengals respond. Andy Dalton hooks up with Tyler Eifert for the touchdown. Welcome back, Tyler. Game tied at 7. A little later, Niners up 7. And Garoppolo, he throws to any number of Bengals. William Jackson comes down with it for the interception, but the offense can't do anything with it. Randy Bullock misses the field goal, and it goes off the rails from there. 21-10 now. Andy trying to make something happen, and he throws to Quan Alexander. The only problem is he plays for the wrong team. Cincinnati with a day to forget on both sides of the ball. 259 yards rushing, given up by that defense. Offense did score again thanks to John Ross in garbage time, but it didn't help. Bengals lose ugly 41-17.
This is not something that we're going to run from. It is what it is. You know, we got blown out at home. We could say it was frustrating, but we will not allow our guys to hang their heads. This is one game. We got 14 more to go. We got a tough one next week at Buffalo. And so we can't waste 1 second feeling sorry for ourselves because no one else is going to do that.
I had a peon performance. At the end of the day, I just got to look myself in the mirror and, how bad do I want it?
All right, with me tonight, Jim Breach, the leading scorer in Bengals franchise history, and Rodney Heath, who played 3 seasons with the team. All right, guys, how you feeling tonight? What's the feel after today's ugliness?
Better than they feel. It was ugly. I mean, there's no sugarcoating today. No. It was bad. Yeah, it's unfortunate because there was a lot of energy down at the stadium, down on the plaza level beforehand, and there was so much positive going on. And people want so much to get behind the team, and then something like this happens. So they got to crawl out of it. But fortunately, like Zach said there, it's one game. Mm-hmm. So we have a chance next week to amend for that.
Yeah. Rodney, what do you think?
I think one of the things is you're going to have to put this game behind you. Right away. At this point, this is one of those things where nothing went well. Everything went wrong, like you said, off the rails. And if you dwell on this game like this for now, this could wreck your whole season. You can't sit here and think about what type of team. You can't let this game dictate what type of team you can be. Right. And that's one of the things that, Coach Taylor is saying to his guys right now. We got to get ready for Buffalo and put this game behind us.
Right.
The one nice thing with pro football, at least, is because it's a constant. So Monday you go in, you look at the film, and it's obviously going to be ugly. You learn from it. You're off on Tuesday. Wednesday you come in, you have a whole new game plan. You really can't even be thinking about that last game.
Right.
It's all about Buffalo starting on Wednesday. So if they can, which is what you should do as a professional, you got to put it behind you and prepare well. Because whether they lost by 1 point like they did the first week or like they did today, it's still one loss each time.
Yeah, an 0-2 start, which is
tomorrow's gonna be rough though for them.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's gonna be rough, just like. It's going to be rougher than what it was today, I would say that honestly. But go ahead.
When you turn on that film for tomorrow, is there anything positive that you draw from something like that?
I honestly think that, looking at that game today from special teams, defense, and offense, it was nothing positive that I really saw from it.
Wow.
You got dominated in front. Shanahan did whatever he wanted on the offensive side. He went from running game over 200 yards, and he can throw the ball anywhere. They gave the quarterback time. It was like anything that they had that the Bengals thought they could line up and play against them defensively, it's like he already knew what they were in. And then you flip it on the offensive side. If you can't get the running game going, how do you think you're going to be able to just throw the ball around? That's not going to happen. You need to be able to protect Andy and get, Mixon going and, hopefully, getting the ball around. You had a couple of receivers that had good, yarders, but you still got to establish that running game to keep the defense off of the field.
Which is exactly what San Francisco did, right? They did exactly what the Bengals were trying to do. Mm-hmm. They run for 259 yards, which by itself, if you threw for 150, you'd have a heck of a game. But they threw for a ton of yards also. So, when you control the line of scrimmage, you can control pretty much anything you want to do out there, and they did control both sides of the line of scrimmage.
And when you talk about that offense, Andy sacked 4 times. He threw a pick, could have thrown more. You know, there was a couple of tip passes that could have gone the other way, one for a pick 6 if he, you know.
If he caught it.
Yeah, if he would have caught it, but he didn't. Just 59 yards on the ground through the first 2 weeks. That's not helping the quarterback. What needs to be done to help this offense get going? Because, you know, you can't rely on throwing for 400-plus yards every week.
Well, I think one of the things is it hurts them, for one, at the offensive line, you can't help that you lose your number 1 pick. You know, you can't.
Right.
That happens, and it is what it is. And then you get people retiring and things like that. Somehow you got to figure out what your identity is in the scheme and what you're trying to do. If you can't move people up front, and like we saw against Seattle, they were getting the ball out quicker.
Right.
And as you know, Seattle still in the second half, they adjusted to what they were trying to do. I mean, we scored 3 points after that. Teams are going to start to look at the game plans, and they're going to say, okay, this is what they're going to do because we can't run the ball. We're going to try and throw it quick and short, and we don't have A.J. So now they're going to get closer to the line, and they're going to test you to throw over top. And if you can't get those guys moving up front, I mean, it's going to be a long season for them.
You got a scheme for it. I mean, they even talked about this week that they were going to do some things scheme-wise, but obviously it didn't work. So they're going to go back to the drawing board and continue to do that. You know, they keep getting people hurt. But the other part of it is these are the guys you have to play with. Whoever's out there are the guys you have to play with. And they kind of some similarities last year. They struggled with that, and they actually got the running game going pretty well. So I think eventually they'll get it going, but you just hope it's not too long into the season before they really discover that continuity that they need.
Right. And I'm not going to take anything away from San Francisco either. I mean,
they played well.
Yeah, they played very well, and you got to give them credit. And I honestly think the way he has that offense going, I mean, the first 2 years Shanahan was there, they weren't a winning team either.
Right.
And now you're looking at, you know, his guys that he actually has in there. I think that's showing, you know, paying dividends to what his vision was for that team. And then on the defensive side, they rushed 4 guys. They didn't really blitz a lot today, and they got pressure on them. So, you know, we can flip that, because I saw on our side we couldn't even get pressure, and when we tried to, we couldn't cover them. And the guys, I was sitting there watching the corners versus the wide receivers, and they were separating from William Jackson and from Dre like it wasn't a problem whatsoever. And when
those
you
are the
have
top
that
guys.
And when you have those problems, that's a long game. And I don't know if that's going to happen every week, because you don't have that dynamic of wide receivers and running backs. Raheem Mostert, and, you know, he was a Big Ten champion in the 100. So you got speed all over the field. And when Shanahan has that, it's going to be hard to stop him. So
was it like looking across the field at, like, your future self? Did it seem like? Because it's like that team is exactly
what they want to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, would you say that you saw that too? I mean, the way I looked at the way Zach did against Seattle and trying to get that ball out quick. But see, the difference with the 49ers is Shanahan's scheme. He was doing screens, the timing and when he called things and how he was moving it from east to west, and just had them guessing. That's one of the things where you can't really put your hat on what he's doing next.
Right.
And that's just one of the things. I was looking at the Chiefs and the Raiders, and I was looking at how the Chiefs were doing things. That's the way the game is played now, it seems like.
When you are running the ball well, I mean, you just can't go. I mean, you can't just rush. You have to be prepared for that run, and it makes you hesitate.
Right.
When you start hesitating, all kinds of things are happening behind you. You give the quarterback a little extra time to throw. We saw what happened today, and when you can't run, they pretty much ignore the run, and so they just come blasting. They're coming after you right now, and so even if you don't get sacked, a lot of times there's people in your face. So running the ball, even though this is in this day and age, it's about passing the ball. You still have to be able to make them honor the line of scrimmage.
Exactly. Well, we'll see what happens next week in Buffalo. They got to turn it around. Get Zach his first win. What's up?
There you go. Yeah.
I mean, that's what they're trying. I'm quite sure they're trying to.
Soon.
We'll see. Well, Jim, Rodney, I really appreciate you all taking the time. Let's do it again sometime.
That sounds good. Welcome, Reggie.
Thank you.
Thank you. There you go.
Thank you. We'll be right back. Call it Rebound Saturday. UC breaking out the throwback uniforms from the 50s and 60s, going for their 14th straight win over Miami. Deion said if you look good, you play good. Not the case early. Tyrese Sheldon plunges in, Chuck Martin's Redhawks up 7-0 in the first, adding on Sam Slowman drills a 41-yard field goal to make it 10-zip. The Bearcats offense looked asleep with the noon start. Michael Warren, wake him up then. Second quarter, he takes it in from 8 yards out, one of his 3 touchdowns on the day. Miami's lead cut to 3. Then UC takes control. Desmond Ridder hooks up with Josiah DeGara for a 27-yard score. It was a modest day for Ridder, 14 of 30, 186, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Bearcats win big, 35-13.
Winning is not easy, and you got to enjoy this, especially in a rivalry week. Coming off of what happened to us last week, and maybe a little shook at some point in time, and it kind of showed early in the game, maybe. But really excited about the way that these guys came in at halftime and came out the second half and really found a way. We were down 10-0, and then it roll off 28 unanswered. Things kind of came together.
I just was telling them guys, nobody in the country trains like us. Nobody in the country works like us, and so I was just trying to keep in the back of their head. It's hot outside, but this is what we breathe in. Camp High Ground, we go out there every day and perform in the heat. I was just letting those guys know, this is nothing to us. Go out there and finish.
All right, good win for them. Call it the Get Back Right win. Moe Edgar in the house with us. Hear him on ESPN 1530 on the radio airwaves every day. So Mo, I have a quick story.
Yeah.
Quick story time with
Okay.
you here.
All right.
So I used to work in Southwest Kansas.
Why?
It's just where the job led. Okay? So I used to work over there.
Okay.
I did a lot of driving. I covered a lot of teams there, far and wide.
Yeah.
And I used to listen to Freddie Coleman on the radio.
That's my guy.
After Freddie, Moe Edgar came on the radio, Sports Center all night, and I thought that you were
Fat.
No.
Oh.
No. I just thought that you were in Bristol. I had no idea when I moved here to Ohio a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I had no idea that you were based in Cincinnati. So it's kind of cool to meet
Wow.
somebody famous.
Yeah. Well, maybe someone will be here that's actually famous. But
we'll
thank
see.
you very much.
Yeah,
That's fun.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool to have you on with us. So let's
to be
talk
here.
let's talk a little Bearcats.
Okay, yeah,
So
let's do it.
They
Because
got
you couldn't get Freddie Coleman.
No, well, we'll try him for next week.
Very good.
Yeah, so 28 unanswered. They looked like they had Buckeye hangover at the start.
Yeah.
How did they rebound? What did you like from what you saw?
A better team took over. I mean, nothing against the Redhawks. Cincinnati's the better, more physical, deeper team.
Right.
What I liked about it, well, a couple of things. Number one, at some point, I think they're going to have to establish some sort of offensive identity.
Yeah.
And that's going to be Michael Warren. I like Des Ridder. I like Josiah DeGuara. But if this team is going to go where a lot of us want it to go, it's going to be because Michael Warren's carrying the football and getting the football in a number of different ways. And, 3 touchdowns yesterday. It kind of felt like that touchdown that he took it at the end of the half, which gave him a lead right before half, which I'm sure demoralized Chuck Martin's team. It kind of felt like, for me, it was kind of like the UCLA game, the third quarter, where it was like, all right, what we do best is give the ball to Mike Warren.
Right.
They did that. They kind of reestablished themselves. And in the second half, they started to do a better job of protecting Des Ridder. And I think just Des is going to have to figure out a way to learn how to play behind this offensive line, which is probably going to improve, probably never going to be a bona fide strength.
Right.
And it felt to me like as the game went on, they did a better job of protecting him, and he did a better job of just looking more comfortable as the game went on.
For sure. So looking ahead to the schedule, we got a bye this week, and they're at Marshall. They host number 17 UCF. Then they're on the road again to Houston. These are a tough stretch of games. What do you see them coming out of that with?
Well, you talk about the schedule. We knew Ohio State was going to be tough.
Right.
We knew that UCF was going to be tough.
Right.
Houston has been, I think, pretty formidable against 2 Power 5 schools in Oklahoma and Washington. They probably have the player of the year in the league, or at least a guy who's in the conversation for player of the year in the league, in De'Ara King. They've got to go to Memphis late in the season. Temple comes here, who had one of the best defenses in the country last season and beat Cincinnati a year ago. They just rolled over Maryland. Maybe rolled over is a little bit too much, but still just beat Maryland, who was kind of the talk of the Big Ten last week. Oh, and now they got to go to Marshall. On the road, they won 9 games last year.
Rough.
If this team can get to 9 or 10 wins, they will have survived a gauntlet. I think they got to fix some stuff. They've got to get better on the offensive line. Defensively, I like where this team is. They're doing as well as they can, making up for the deficiencies and the injuries they've had at safety. But to me, it's all about Dez and Michael Warren. If they can protect Dez, open up holes for Michael Warren, this team, I believe, should be able to compete with anybody on its schedule.
All right, well, we'll see what happens with the Bearcats. They got some tough ones coming up. Mo is sticking around for another segment with us, so we'll talk some other things that he may or may not be
Probably
happy
don't
to talk about.
Probably don't.
Stick around. We'll be back.
We felt like we were prepared. The players bought in. We felt like we had a good plan on both sides of the ball, had a good feel for what they were going to do offensively and defensively. It wasn't like they did anything that surprised us. We just didn't make the plays that came to us. And it's embarrassing isn't the word. You know, this is football. It's going to happen. You're not going to play your best game sometimes, but we just got to learn from this, and we cannot let it happen again.
All right, well.
Somebody give that guy some players.
Exactly.
Give him some players.
Exactly. Well, welcome back to Sports of All Sorts. Still hanging out with Moe Edgar. So, Mo, I had to get your reaction. After 2 weeks, do we think we know what this team is?
Not very good.
Okay.
I mean, they're not. And I was encouraged and optimistic by the way they played and the way they were coached against Seattle. But the reality is, this team just doesn't have enough talent, especially on defense. They had the worst defense in the National Football League last year. Mm-hmm. And I certainly don't expect them to have the worst defense in the NFL this season because I think they'll be healthier. And I believe they're going to be coached better. But at the end of the day, they don't have enough good defensive players and they don't have a good offensive line. And both of those things, we saw them today. And the offensive line, the injuries don't help, but those two units, and the defensive units, a unit as a whole, and then the offensive line, a segment of the offense, we knew coming into the season those were not very good. You might be able to mask some issues on a 1 week basis,
right?
Or versus a certain opponent,
right?
But week to week, as a whole, those are huge deficiencies that they really didn't address in the offseason.
Yeah, we were talking earlier. Same guys, basically.
Yeah, same guys. The defense, take away Vontaze Burfict. It's the same group of dudes. And again, I know injuries were a factor last year.
Right.
I really can appreciate that. But it's not like we thought this defense was going to be very good before last season.
Right.
So it's largely the same group of guys. And individually, would you like to have Carl Lawson? Sure. Would you like to have Geno Atkins? Yeah. Would you like to have William Jackson? Of course. But as a whole, Dre Kirkpatrick was abused today by guys who aren't that good.
I know.
And then if you look at the offensive line, it felt like every time the Bengals made a positive play, there was a penalty. And whenever they didn't make a positive play, it's because somebody missed a block, whether it be Andre Smith, Bobby Hart, whoever it is.
Just maddening to watch.
And so I'm giving Zach Taylor the benefit of the doubt. I'm giving this coaching staff the benefit of the doubt. What they're working with is not standard. It's not the standard that good NFL teams demand that you meet. And the San Francisco 49ers aren't a good NFL team.
Right.
So what's going to happen when they start playing good NFL teams?
Whew. Speaking of some good NFL teams, let's stay in the division. So
I'm not sure there are any in the division.
So it's weird to say because I don't know what this division looks like. The Browns, I'm really not sure what they look like through 2 weeks. They haven't played yet. They play tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then the Ravens, they've played the Cardinals and they played the Dolphins last week. They looked all world. Lamar Jackson looks great. The Steelers didn't look good last week at all. They lost again. They lost Big Ben, maybe James Conner too. What do we make of this division? Is it still winnable for Cincinnati? Can we say something like that?
Well, I certainly think that you could. There's a really good chance that you could win the AFC North, finishing just 10-6, just 10-6, or just 9-7. I don't know what Pittsburgh is good at offensively. I think they're good at stopping the run, but I don't know offensively what they're good at.
Yeah.
I want to see Baltimore play a good team, and they've won 2 games, and that's to their credit. And the Bengals will play those teams, and Pittsburgh will play those teams in Cleveland. But I kind of want to see them play a formidable opponent. I still believe the Browns are going to be okay. It's fun to have fun at their expense based on what happened last week. And I had fun at their expense based on what happened last week. I still feel like they're the most talented team. If you're a Bengals fan clinging to the idea that, well, nobody else in the division is that good, first of all, you do have a 2-game deficit already to make up against Baltimore. And can you explain to me how they're going to win 9 of their next 14, again, with this offensive line and with this defense?
Right. I can't.
So maybe Freddie Coleman could.
Maybe he could. Well, maybe we'll try to get Freddie one of these days. Mo, thanks a lot for joining us
Reggie.
tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Come on anytime.
All right.
All right, we'll be right back. Welcome back. After our program is In Depth with Graham Benzinger, who caught up with NBA journeyman big man Dwight Howard, who's found his way back to my favorite team, the Lakers, for the second time in his career.
This week we're in Atlanta spending the day with Dwight Howard. The 8-time All-Star opens up about life and his controversial career. What do you think the biggest misconception is that people have of you?
The one thing that I really hated was just hearing people say I was a cancer in the locker room.
Plus, Dwight gives us a tour of his 15-acre estate. All that's coming up next and In Depth right here on 9 on Your Side.
All right, here on Sports of All Sorts, we're interested in sports stories of all sorts, and I need your help to make it happen. So if you have an idea for a story you want to see on the show, no matter the sport and however unique, let me know about it. You can email me at reggie.wilson@wcpo.com or hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at ReggieWilsonTV or Facebook. Just search Reggie Wilson. I look forward to sharing the sports stories that matter to you each and every Sunday night on Sports of All Sorts. Well, it's been real, it's been fun, it's been real fun, but we gotta go. I'd like to thank Jim Breach, Rodney Heath, and Moe Edgar for joining us tonight, and my new village who helped me put all of this together. Hope you enjoyed the show. Let's do it again next Sunday. Have a good night and a blessed week.